Hi, I'm Yazmin and I'm in South Australia. In today's episode, I'm going to be going to Kangaroo Island to try some of their gins, but first I'm going to go to the Tin Shed Distillery to try some of their award-winning whiskies. And this is Cellar Door, Australia. It's a blistering hot 35-degree day here in South Australia, and so not the most ideal day to pick to visit a tin shed. Unless, of course, it's the Tin Shed Distilling Co. in Adelaide. They've been making a name for themselves in single malt whisky, and today I'm catching up with Ian Schmidt, who's the head honcho around these parts. Ian, thank you so much for having us here at the Tin Shed Distillery.
Pleasure, welcome.
Thank you. You've got quite a few barrels here. You do quite a few processes right here. Tell me a little bit about what makes you guys so different and great.
We are one of the few distillers of whisky in Australia who actually manufacture from scratch, by which I mean we get malted barley in, crush it, make a mash out of it, ferment it, distill it. Most of the Tasmanian, for example, Tasmanian distillers are what we call beer boilers.
Right.
They buy their beer in and boil it, so they only do sort of half the process.
But you're hands-on from the beginning.
Oh yeah, very much so.
How did you get here? What's the history?
That goes back a long way. My partner Vic, business partner Vic that is, and I were leaning on the school fence one day waiting to pick up the kids from school. And Vic mentioned that he works as a postman and he had been to a homebrew shop that day and seen that they had a still for sale. And his ancestry is Russian. He wanted to buy the still and make some vodka.
Right.
And I said, don't bother, put your brew on and ferment it. I've got a little still which I inherited from my father and he inherited from his father, which came from the Pike's Brewery laboratory up at Oakbank in the Adelaide Hills. Right. And I've still got it.
And it was just sitting there, you weren't using it?
I wasn't using it. The last time it had been used was when my father and a bloke called Peter Lehman were trying to make Calvados. My father made cider for a living, and he was in business with Peter Lehman, and they decided they'd try and make some Calvados.
So leaning on the school fence, talking about these old stills ignited this idea of starting your own distillery.
Yeah, it was a bit of fun to start with. Rick came around and my wife was out that night and we started distilling using this fella here, the little still.
That's a very tiny still.
It's a laboratory still used in breweries to determine the alcoholic strength of their beer.
Ah, okay.
Or to certify it. So we were using this in the kitchen and the kids who were small were upstairs sleeping and my wife came home and nearly collapsed as she walked to the door because all the alcoholic fumes had escaped the still and were all through the house. Luckily no one lit a match and that was our start.
It's still incredibly hot and I can feel myself getting pretty thirsty. Time to catch up with blender extraordinaire Vic, where maybe I can get a drink. Hi Vic.
Hello.
Tell me, what do you do here at the Tin Shed Distillery? What's your role?
My role predominantly is a blender.
A blender?
Yes.
So blender means taster as well then?
It does mean tasting, so I get to do the fun jobs of identifying casks that are ready to drink. It can be difficult at times, you know, I've done up to 20 different styles of blends to come out with a batch of whiskey. Because we have bourbon casks, we have Shiraz casks, Chardonnay casks, port casks, sherry casks. We've got a whole list and style of whiskies that are a little bit different. And of course, demand dictates that we need to come out with 400 to 500 bottles sometimes. So in the early days, we'd use 100 litre casks. We think, oh, that's good, that's great to bottle, put it in a bottle, sell it, fantastic, easy. Not so easy. Not so easy anymore, unfortunately, but still fun.
What makes your whiskey different?
We choose our barrels carefully, so we've over the years we've determined that we like to use port casks. from the real land and from the Barossa and various places. In most cases, I would say we would get 50% of our casks recharred and reworked.
Okay.
So they're basically been scraped and fired and cleaned, and we get them back. And so we fill them up with new make spirit, and we get some lovely colours and flavours happening in the casks.
What size barrels do you use?
We use 100-litre casks, which we started with. So we've sort of put them back into the background a little bit because we've got so much demand. We've gone to 200-litre casks.
Yep.
Most of the industry uses 200-litre casks. So if we buy wine casks, 220, 230 litres will give us pretty much a premium product in a fairly short time.
Well, how long generally?
In as little as 3 years, we can have a world-class product.
Beautiful.
Which we've won awards on in 3 years.
Okay, finally time for that drink. Ian, what have you got for me to taste?
So we'll start you on a rum.
Let's do it.
Okay. It's called the Ferret. The brand is called Requiem, and it's a memory to dead sailors and lost ships.
Right.
This one's called the Ferret. The Ferret was an interesting little ship. It was made in Scotland in the 1860s, and it came to be wrecked at the bottom of York Peninsula in South Australia, November 1920, actually.
Okay.
All our whiskies are named as batch numbers.
Okay.
So to have numbers of batches for rum would be confusing.
Yes.
So we've given the rums names.
Right. And there's nothing like rum and sailing.
Correct.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
To the Ferret.
Thank you. To the Ferret.
So that's a molasses-based product, double distilled in the same method we use for making whiskey as what we use for making rum. And that particular rum picked up a Best in Show medal and award just recently last year in Adelaide.
That's really lovely.
Oh, glad you like it.
Yeah, it's nice and smooth. It's delicious. Yeah.
And now we move to whiskey, which is made from this stuff, which is barley.
Yep.
Malted barley in particular in our case. And we'll start with batch 17.
Okay.
All of our whiskies have different numbers. They're all different, yet they're all pretty similar. The reason being we're not big enough to make a consistent product. We just don't have enough volume. And also Vic and I get bored drinking the same stuff all the time.
Exactly. So you've got to be having fun while you do it.
Yeah, well, in this case, we had a bit of fun, but we had other people. We had 30-odd members of our Den of Iniquity, our fan club, if you like, or our members club, turn up to a restaurant. We fed them. We gave them 6 barrel samples, and we said, go for it, boys. If you can blend it together so that we like it, we think it's good enough, we'll put it in the bottle and we'll put your name on it. And batch 17 scored 91 points in the Whiskey Bible from Jim Murray this year. And the names of the 3 blokes are on the back. And you can see them in Adelaide bars. They drink outdoors all the time. Their heads are now so big they don't fit through the doorway.
Okay.
So give that a go. When you're taking a sip, have a little wee sip to acclimatise your palate, and then take a reasonable sized swig and roll that around your mouth and chew it for 5 or 6 seconds. Then swallow and breathe out.
And breathe out. So a little tiny one first?
Just to acclimatise.
Okay.
I was going to say anaesthetise, but not acclimatise.
That's after the 3rd or 4th one.
That's correct.
When you have that tiny little bit, it almost just dissolves. Doesn't it? It kind of melts. You don't have to really swallow it. A bit bigger?
Yep. Have a decent swig. Chew it. Roll it around your mouth. Now swallow. When I do that, I get nutty flavours now. One of the unique things about whiskey compared to cognac and rum and those other things is that you get multiple organoleptic. That's a flash word for sensory and tasting notes.
Yeah.
Characteristics in the drink. So you get really 3 drinks for the price of 1. Because every time you come back and taste this, it tastes a little bit different.
And every time I sip it, I'm trying to find like, oh, there's this. Oh no, it's something else. It's fruity and it's nutty and it's spicy, and so you're trying to like process it all at the same time.
We're not done yet. We'll give you a little taste of the malt vodka, which is where it all begins. So that's malt vodka. It's essentially the new make spirit that we make the whiskey out of.
Oh, that's very earthy, like grainy kind of smell to it.
Well, that's what it should be. It's made from grain.
Yeah. Amazing. But not all vodka is done with barley.
No, a lot of vodkas are made from basically anything that ferments, be it wheat, be it barley, be it potatoes, sorghum, anything that will ferment.
Yeah. And traditionally the cheapest thing, like essentially like potatoes and stuff.
And that particular vodka is named after his father. It's called Piotr. And if you look through the bottle, you can see on the back label a portrait of Vic's father.
Oh, wow.
Taken in 1946 in Berlin.
Well, my dad, Peter in English and Piotr in Russian, never made vodka, but he did drink a lot of it.
Right.
So I thought, as a tribute to my father and my heritage, father being a Cossack, and we came out with a malt vodka.
Okay.
So it's through a process of using barley, which is predominantly what we use for making whiskey. We thought we would use a percentage of that to come out with a vodka.
Yeah, great. Just to add something a little bit different to your range as well.
Yeah, sure. We realised that diversity is interesting, and we can't really bank on having whiskies. Whiskies take so long to be ready, whereas a vodka we can make and it's ready on the shelves in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So
Where could somebody buy one of your vodkas?
Johnny Online. There are some specific bottle shops that do have them around Adelaide. We haven't really pushed it too hard yet.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of time.
That's very pleasant. And so this is essentially what you use before you barrel it?
That's slightly different to what we put in the barrel for making whiskey, but it's along the same lines.
Yeah.
Would you like to try that with a touch of ice?
Okay.
There you go.
And what would you usually have this one with, on its own or cocktails?
My 88-year-old mother's really partial to it with soda and lime.
Yeah.
She
Can't
loves
go
it.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's delicious. That's really... I say that about everything. No, but that is wonderful. You definitely taste, like I said, the maltiness to it. So.
Okay.
Yeah, great. Okay, well, thank you. It was quite the extensive tasting, which I always love.
And you didn't even get to the gin.
Next time.
Okay.
Thanks, Ian.
Pleasure.
After leaving Adelaide, we headed south to the ferry to Kangaroo Island. With over 500 kilometres of coastline and plenty of native bushland and wildlife, this island is a great spot for adventure and exploring. It's also home to a growing number of local cellar doors, and today I'm visiting Kangaroo Island Spirits. First up, I'm having a chat with the founder, John, in their idyllic garden. Hi, John.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Fantastic.
You started Kangaroo Island Spirits how many years ago?
Well, the idea started in 2002 at my wife and I, Sarah and I, at our wedding. We were having a conversation with my brother Bill Lark from the Lark Distillery, who actually started the craft distilling industry off in Australia back in '93.
Yes, the godfather of whiskey.
The godfather of whiskey, yeah. And we said to him at the time there were only a dozen or more distilleries in the country, mostly in Tasmania, making brown spirits, and some of them were using gin as a bit of a cash flow. And we said to him at the time, why doesn't anyone make gin the traditional way, using real botanicals and real traditional distilling processes?
Yeah.
And at the time, the thought was that gin would never go anywhere and we should make whiskey. So we ignored that, and Sarah and I came over to Kangaroo Island and started to build on the concept of this distillery. And by 2006, we had a license and we're up and running.
So you grow a lot of your own botanicals?
We grow a lot and we also forage. So the wild gin we have, we very early on discovered a plant the locals call juniper. Now, common juniper is a pine tree that doesn't occur naturally in Australia, and gin distillers, we rely on it, but there's a plant here they call juniper because it has a little purple berry that's similar. It's actually a Myoporum. Bubiala is what it's commonly known as, and so we developed our first gin using that plant, but also with some botanicals from the garden. So eau de cologne, mint, some citrus, etc. come from the garden. So a combination of both foraging and from the garden. So fairly early on in the piece, we also started to look at growing common juniper here, the pine tree. I couldn't at first find much reference to it in Australia or even find a plant, but eventually I did find some, and I found 3 varieties, and we started growing them here. And we've had some in the ground for, 6 or 7 years now.
Okay.
And they're producing a small crop, allowing us to make 1 or 2 batches of a single run of gin using our own estate juniper. So in a sense, we can make a gin now with everything from this block, which is fairly unique in Australia.
Special.
Yeah, very special.
Yeah.
So we released a gin called Koala 48 a couple of years ago during Tasting Australia, and we're about to do our second run of that. And Koala 48 gets its name as a sort of a humorous take on a German gin that uses 47 botanicals called Monkey 47. And we wondered how a German could conceivably produce a gin with 47 botanicals, very complex. And we thought about it and we pulled the idea apart and came back and thought, well, being Australian, why don't we beat that by 1? So we released Koala 48. After a koala walked into our cellar door one day and inspired us to use the koala instead of a monkey.
Just walked in and you got that one extra botanical.
Yeah, we have a lot of koalas here. We did have one that was hovering around for 18 months and then one day it walked in and climbed the coffee machine. So maybe he was after a coffee. So we named the gin after him anyway.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, that's lovely. Well, should we go for a little walk? Maybe go check out those juniper trees?
Sure, let's do that.
To see them. And the stars of the show, the juniper trees. These are the junipers.
These are the junipers, and as I was saying, we're very excited about these. They're 5 or 6 years old, maybe 7. Can't quite remember. But we planted these very early on, and at the time, and still till I think today, we're the only distillery with quite a substantial crop of junipers growing. Common juniper being a northern hemisphere pine tree plant, and it's allowing us to make with the purple berries. They go green the first year, and then purple the second year when they're ripe. And we're just getting ready now to come in and pick the ripe ones so that we can use in a special gin that we make here called Koala 48.
Koala, can I try one?
Yeah, absolutely, help yourself.
That one's ready to go?
Ready to go. Very fresh and very piney, discernibly gin in your mouth straight away.
That's like just having a glass of gin.
Pretty much.
Really
we talk
strong
about the major
flavour.
botanicals. So juniper is obviously the most important element of a gin in the European definition. Coriander seed and angelica are close seconds as the major botanicals. And then after that, everything else we talk about are minor botanicals which give it its personality and character. So you'll have a gin and then you'll have things which make it sweet or savoury or floral or herbaceous or foresty. And we've got about 150 of these and we're planting another 100 this year.
Oh, wow.
So we can start to increase the volume of junipers that we're collecting.
All right, I think I might be ready to go try some.
That's a great idea. Let's go and find Sarah.
Great. Before I taste, let's have a look behind the curtain in the distillery.
All the gin is made in this room between the 2 stills.
Yeah.
So I started with the 80-litre still over in the corner and we still use it. It produces about half of what we do and then the other half's done in this.
Yeah, and how many litres is this one?
It's the 300-litre still called Mary.
Mary.
And yeah, so we run both at the same time with the same recipe.
And all your botanicals go into this?
Some do, yeah. So at the moment we're running wild gin through here. So we've got some botanicals in a basket in the actual liquid in the pot.
Or like
an
infusion.
Yeah, it soaks in the alcohol and the water. And then we've got some in the basket up here. So in the vapour will come up and get forced up through those botanicals. And you tend to have the more delicate flavours up there. And then it's across the line arm down into the condenser. And then we collect it in the drum.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it just comes out quite a high ABV. And then we add water and proof it down to bottle strength. And that's all there is to it. Yeah. It's as simple as you want to make it, but the more you get into it, the more complicated it is.
Yeah, it's simple, but there's a lot to it as well, especially when you're doing, 48 botanicals?
Yeah, you can, for Koala
like
48,
things,
but these between 9 and 13 or something.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that's your average, probably 9 to 13.
Yeah, around there, yep.
Yeah, a bit more keep it simple.
So you're starting to get into like the secret sort of side of things where recipes and...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but...
All right, cool. All right, time for a proper tasting.
Hello, Sarah. You are the better half of John, who I'm
glad you recognise
that.
Yes. It's not hard.
And he took me for a beautiful walk through your garden, showed me your botanicals and your junipers there, so I'm very excited to see how that has turned into a bottle and see what it tastes like.
Fantastic. Now comes the best part of the experience. So I am going to start you with our award-winning O-Gin. So Trophy, this is the only gin in Australia that's won a trophy at the International Wine and Spirits competition in London.
Okay.
And O is the operative word here. We called it O-Gin because of the key botanical in it is the native Olearia axillaris that grows on Kangaroo Island.
Olearia axillaris.
Well done, not bad, Latin there. It's a coastal daisy and it looks like rosemary, so it's got those lovely aromatics. It's a little bit of the captured the seaside of Kangaroo Island in there. So would you like to have a taste?
I would. Oh wow, it's very fresh.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm feeling seaside.
Very good, very
Feeling
good.
by the beach.
Yeah.
Bit of like that saltiness to it, almost.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's that, to us, it's the perfume of walking through the sand dunes on that hot summer's day that it is able to capture in a gin.
Yeah, right. That's lovely. And would you usually have that with tonic on its own?
Beautiful on its own, but definitely when you mix it with tonic or soda water, it just brings out other of the flavours that are in there. So the tonic, and we enjoy a good tonic with it because it has the bubbles that help to bring all those aromatics out, and it just releases a few more of the oils that are in there.
That's like a completely different drink.
Absolutely, yeah.
That is scrumptious.
Good, good.
And a good tonic is important, isn't it?
Definitely, because you don't want to, we've put a lot of effort into getting all those flavours in that gin, and so you want to be able to complement them. You don't want to drown them.
Yeah.
And it's getting that right carbonation level as well that helps to bring out those oils.
And so, like a cheaper tonic would have different carbonation?
Different carbonation and way too sweet as well, I find. Sweetness, I think, is critical in those flavours too.
Yeah, because tonic is generally high in sugar, so you want
It is.
nice balance.
Yes, yep, absolutely. And the glass that you serve it in is also very important. This is a copper style glass that the Spanish have introduced to gin and tonic. The English used to serve it in those tall, thin Collins glasses, and that's kind of strangling all those aromas. You want to get your nose into that and actually enjoy. That's 90% of your palate is the aroma, so you really want to get that smell from it as well.
And they look great to drink out of.
Absolutely. Also important, isn't it?
And that's great on its own. Would you garnish it with anything?
Definitely. So the Olearia is a great garnish with it. The other beautiful garnish is just a bit of rosemary too, and orange if you wanted to try that.
Now, I have heard a lot about this Koala 48.
Now, we are just working on our latest version of this, so I have just found for you our remaining little bit.
That's all that's left.
Of our last production of Koala 48. But what is so amazing about this is the fact that we can capture the garden here just in one bottle. You ready to try it?
I feel bad for taking your last little bit, but I'm not going to say no.
No, and the beautiful thing is that although you think 48 botanicals is a great many, but there are so many representations of lemon that we have growing here, for instance. In lemon verbena, native lemon grass, the lemon myrtle that you've seen as well. So it's just different ways of bringing those different flavours into one drink.
Wow. That is so complex. so much happening.
There absolutely is.
Wow, that's really special.
Thank you. We're very excited about being able to it won't be exactly the same because, you know, every year the garden's a little bit different and the plants, the different flavours will come out of the plants. But we can certainly always, we feel we can always improve.
Oh, definitely. Wow. I don't think I've ever tasted any gin quite like that. That's really unique. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the tasting and this really wonderful day at Kangaroo Island Spirits.
Not a problem. I think that the best way to finish your day is to enjoy a beautiful cocktail in our garden. What do you think?
Okay.
Twist your arm.
Done. Solid.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, I've had a really great time here at Kangaroo Island Spirits. Thank you so much for joining me in this episode. I'm going to enjoy this cocktail, and I'll see you next time.